Welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Another exciting show, another exciting guest. We're going back to Tulsa, Oklahoma, Sooner Country, home of my buddy Marcus Dupree. Well, college, not home. He's from Mississippi, but you know, Oklahoma is his turf. Billy Sims, Brian Bosworth. I can go on, and I know our guest can go on and on and on because not only is she a Sooner fan, but she's been married since high school. Jesus Christ, when you think about that, she knows these guys, and she's been married that long. Yeah. Anyway, let's keep going with this show. This is a great show. It's funny how people can go on social media nowadays and just become like this overnight sensation. So let's call it what it is. This is overnight sensation. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Happily married, many years. Oklahoma Sooner fan, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Mother. Really pushing her, really navigating her son's pathway into college so he can live his dream to play in the big leagues. But more important than that, she has other children, but one child is what you might call a special needs, or she might be considered a special needs mom. But to watch her navigate her career with photography and to also inspire other individuals through the social media platform is truly funny, entertaining, and just what I might call definitely a beast mindset, how you can navigate all of these things and still walk around every day and put a smile on other people's face. I'd like to welcome to the show Miss Excitement. I'm going to call her what it is. Miss Excitement herself, Amber. Let me get the last name right. Gregg.
You got it.
How we doing, baby girl?
I'm good. How are y'all?
That's what happens when you get a certain age. You know, your eyes start to play tricks. But I know the name. I was like, okay, I know her name is Gregg. Okay. Yep. So before we get started with such an impactful beast mindset episode, tell the viewers a little bit about you.
I'm Amber Gregg. I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Like you said, I've been married to my husband, Philip, we got married in 2001. So we've been married for a long time. We have 4 children. Nate is 17, Phoenix is 16, Brooklyn's 11, and London is 7. And she is my little girl with Down syndrome. She was our little surprise baby. Mm-hmm. And I have a photography studio here in Tulsa. I've been in business for about 12 years. I've always done photography. That's not what I went to school for. I went to school to be a school counselor and a school psychologist because I liked working with kids. But, you know, getting into the school system and all the stuff with that, it wasn't fun anymore for me. And if I can't get up and be excited to do something, then I just won't do it. So
you actually went to school your major was in helping in the school system, and you did do the school system, but you just didn't like it.
Right. Yeah.
What was it what was it that you didn't like? I'm curious about this because I'm a former school teacher, so I'm trying to make.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What was it that you didn't like?
My whole entire family is in education. My mom's a teacher. I have coaches in my family. I have a superintendent uncle. School system was just what I knew, you know. We lived our whole year for the school system, like getting out in the summertime and going to basketball games and, you know, everything like that. So originally I was like, I don't want to do that. But I like kids and I wanted to help kids. So I decided to go and get my school counseling and then go back and get my school psychologist. And really, I liked it for a while, but just being tied down, and there's a lot of politics in school. And, you know, Oklahoma, we're like 49th in education. Right. And they just don't pay teachers well. And I have 2 master's degrees. I deserve to be paid. And they just couldn't pay me what I needed. And, you know, I liked working with the kids and everything. But when I got pregnant with my first child, I thought, I don't want to do this. I don't want to put him in daycare. I need to find something that I can work around. And I always wanted to start my own business, and I was always good at photography. And I was like, okay, we're just going to do this. And that's kind of how I got into opening up my photography studio.
You know, that's really, that's really, that's speechless, because you went from having 2 master's degrees to decide that you want to take the road to photography. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not really lucrative when you think about, you hold 2
I know.
degree. So when you talk to your husband about this is your first child, what was his take on this?
He was good with it. He really didn't want to put Nate in daycare and have me gone all day. And, you know, we worked through it and we were going to be okay. He always has had a good job and he's always moved up through the years. You know, kind of like we started from the bottom and then we just grew, you know, we blew up and came up. And I mean, we were good. So he was like, yeah, go for it.
What was some of the struggles that you had to deal with? Because this is, taking pictures is one thing, but you're going to something truly different. I get it that you're following a different passion, but how long had that passion with photography resonate in you? Because you got 2 masters. So if you come from a lineages of educators, that just seems pretty far fetched.
It was a little out there. But, you know, you can see pictures of me when I was about 3 or 4 years old having a camera. I always had a camera with me. I brought the camera to school. I took pictures at school. I, you know, went to college and took photography classes where we did the dark room and you had to hang them up and all that stuff. And so it always interested me. And, you know, when I just, you know, it's different when you have your own kid and you're like, I want to be with them and do things with them. And I wanted to take his pictures, and he was, you know, one of my first little clients. And I took a little bit of educational classes to be able to pose babies, because I got into newborn photography, you know, where they have them like this, and you have to really know what you do, and you can't just flip and flop a newborn baby around. So I took a lot of instructional classes to learn how to do all that safely. And I just really got into it, and I built a business pretty quick.
What about your inner structure outside your husband? You know, you got principals, you got counselors, you know, you got to go to family meetings. Come on, family reunion in Oklahoma, you know, barbecue and so forth. I mean, were you considered the black sheep of the family now?
No, everybody was really pushing me to do whatever I wanted to do. I don't ever feel like anybody ever tried to hold me back. And I still have my certificates. I'm still certified with the state of Oklahoma. So if I wanted to go back, I could. But yeah, everybody was really good with it. Because, you know, a lot of people just we didn't agree that daycare would have been good for our kids. I wanted to be there to raise them. And that was kind of my main thing. I wanted to be there. I didn't want to have somebody else raise my kids and just me being tied down all day long. So
now let's move on to something a little even more impactful. You wind up having the last child. And unfortunately you wind up with the Down syndrome, correct?
Right.
Down syndrome, right? Okay.
Down syndrome.
How does that change the objective now of having to deal with that? Like, what was that like for you? I mean, I couldn't imagine, you know, that happening. And they said that usually happens with a woman. It usually happens during what they might call different age brackets that you get pregnant. The longer you wait to get pregnant, the longer the higher risk factor. You become a high risk factor of a child having that. So my question is, did they ask to perform an in vitro on you during your pregnancy? Because they can go in while you're pregnant and pull out and determine, at least not maybe 100%, but the chances of that happening. Was that even offered to you?
So now they do a blood test. You can do a blood test at 12 weeks. And I did the blood test, not because I thought that I was going to have a child with Down syndrome. I just wanted to find out the sex of the baby, because at 12 weeks, it shows a lot of the things plus the sex. And so I did the blood test, and they came back and told me that she probably does have Down syndrome at 12 weeks. And it kind of hit me. I thought, I don't know. I don't know if that's true, because I had looked it up, and some of the tests, come back false positives and stuff like that. And I was kind of holding on to hope that, that's not going to happen. And I thought, God's not going to get me pregnant, and have me raise, a kid with Down syndrome. I just thought this is just not going to happen. But through the pregnancy, God was showing me a lot of stuff, and I was doing a lot of research. And
like, what do you mean a lot of stuff?
I was just all of a sudden coming into contact with people with Down syndrome and stuff like that out of the blue, when I've never really noticed it before, or it, I never really knew anybody with Down syndrome. So, I just never was around anybody with it. And so I felt like God was giving me signs like, girl, you get prepared, because she's coming and she's got it. And she, I had rolled into the hospital kind of thinking, well, maybe she don't have it, but she was born and she did. And I was like, okay, we locked eyes when I had her, and they had to take her away because they had to put her in the NICU for a little bit. But me and her locked eyes, and I was like, okay, we're good. We're going to go through. We're going to get it going. Let's go. And so I learned as much as I could. And I was doing a little bit of research during the pregnancy too. So, it affects everyone different. So a lot of people have these stereotypes about Down syndrome that's just real antiquated. And like, they were trying to give me books like from the 1980s. And I started looking through there, and I was like, just keep them. I ain't going to read them. I'm going to do my own research. I'm going to talk to people who have kids with Down syndrome right now. And there's just so much stuff for them, so many therapies and different things they can get into. And you'd be surprised. I have met kids with Down syndrome who are in college, kids with Down syndrome who have their own businesses. They've gotten married and live on their own. And just the old stereotypes just aren't there anymore. And luckily, when London was born, she had a little tiny hole in her heart. And a lot of kids with Down syndrome have heart issues. But hers closed on her own. And so we just started calling her Wonder Woman. And she is in school now. She's on an IEP, so she gets some special services and special help. Right. But she's learning to read. She does everything that my other kids do. We don't treat her any different. She's good.
It's funny you mentioned, God and universe and so forth, because I remember going through somewhat a similar thing when my daughter was, when her mom first conceived. Naturally, there was age factor. I think it was about maybe in the 40s. And I remember them coming to me and her, and it was like, hey, do you want to perform and I pronounced it earlier, where they take the needle and go inside the belly and they pull it out and those factors.
The amnio. Yeah.
And I was like, well, what's that for? And it was like, high risk. She could have, the child could wind up with Down syndrome. We'll give you a couple of days to think about it. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. If it happens, it happens. I don't want that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my hat's off to you for thinking the same way that I thought. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And being proactive. But what was some of the difficult things that you had to really deal with? Because this couldn't have been an easy journey. Yeah, you got outdated information. I like the fact that you said, you know what, this is 1980. Science and technology has moved forward. Give me something interesting. And then the fact that you said that you've been attracting people that had it. What better way to learn than the people that's already dealt with it? But what were some of the key things that you learned during your navigating how to be a good parent with the child that had special needs?
Well, one of the best things that I did was join a mom's group with kids around her age. So whoever had a child born with Down syndrome, like in that year, we were all in a group. And so we would talk to each other and be like, okay, we're going through this. We have to go to this doctor. Because like I said, a lot of these kids with Down syndrome have a lot of health issues. Now, London didn't really have a whole lot of health issues. So we're not at the doctor constantly. And some people are. It affects people differently. And I have to remind people of that because they just kind of put them in all of them in a little stereotype that they're all, have tons of health issues and they're all slow learners and this and that. They all learn they all learn a different way. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like to me, it's just like raising my other kids. I just had to learn her little quirks and what she needed, because she does learn a little bit slower than the other kids, but I try not to compare, right? Because comparison is the thief of joy. Right. So she's going to do what she does. We're going to head it on and help her as much as we can. But she's in the first grade right now. She does have a little bit of help with the IEP. And because I am a school psychologist, I can go in there to the meetings and know exactly what they're talking about and ask for certain things. She's in speech therapy because she has a little bit of a speech delay. But she's doing really good. She did have to have a little bit of physical therapy at first. Mm-hmm. So that was a little difficult for us because my other kids started walking around a year. She didn't start walking until she was about 2. Wow. So she was a little bit behind in that. Mm-hmm. But so that was a little bit difficult in the first years. And
you would think that, because I work with older kids that had it in my studio, and I was truly amazed of their skill set. Yeah, things that they can do and comprehend, like this. And I was like, "Holy crap! You sure?" And my thing was, "You sure this child has Down syndrome?" Because they're performing better than the kids that don't. Yeah. But my question is, you mentioned something about the fact that a lot of them had health-related issues. Right. And I was surprised that you didn't mention that they had a lot of what we might call intellect issues. Mm-hmm. And I found that even working with them myself as they got older, none of them they really didn't have intellect issues. The way in which they learned was a little bit different, but once they picked it up, it was like, I was holy crap. You know what I mean? Like truly blown away. What has been the joyous part of this so far for you with your daughter? And I don't even want to call you a special needs mom. Let's get rid. I want to get rid of that stereotype with people. I don't think none of these kids have special needs. There is a way in which everybody learns. Right. As two teachers or former educators, it's our job to find out which pathway do we need for little Joey or Jenny to learn, because they all can learn. Right. So it's just that we got to figure out what it is. But back to the question at hand, she's 1 year old. No, she's 7 now. 7? Okay. So now she's 7. Yeah. And you looked at her for the first time and you made that eye contact. Yeah. For 7 years, what has been the most enjoyable moment? Gosh. Wasn't prepared for all this, were you? No. Just, it takes her just a little longer to learn stuff. There's just a little bit of a delay. Like you said, it's not the intellect. It's just a little bit slower. So when she finally gets something, we're all like, woo, yay. And just seeing it is just really great. She has, like I told you, she is in speech therapy. She has a little bit of a speech delay. Mm-hmm. So some words are harder for her to say.
So, like around last year, she finally just started saying, I love you, mommy. And now she says it all the time. I love you, mommy. I love you, mommy. And I'm like, that's just the sweetest thing I've ever heard in my whole entire life.
Now she has brothers and sisters. How did you implement that into educating them to have to deal with her? Because let's get real, teenagers and kids don't have patience.
Right.
You know, and let's get real, even some of us adults don't have patience.
Yeah.
How did you orchestrate that? Like, what were some of your techniques? And the reason I'm saying this is for those that don't understand and don't follow her on social media, she actually brings her skill sets in an education and fun platform through TikTok and all the social medias. So how do you do that? How do you take your kids who have no idea about Down syndrome or special needs or whatever and say, okay, this is a part of our life now. We got to work together as a team. It may not be easy, but blah, blah, blah. How do you handle that?
Yeah. When I was pregnant with her, I set the other kids down, and you know, the littlest one, she was 4 at that time. So I feel like she's lived a life where she's always had Down syndrome in her life. She really doesn't remember a whole lot without London. And my other kids, they were like 9, 10. So they kind of understood. And I just told them, I said, London's going to be a little bit different. We're going to have to be more patient with her and help her a little bit more. And they, I thought it was going to be a big deal. And they were just like, okay. And so just having them growing up with a sibling with Down syndrome has made them better people, I think. I think they're more empathetic with people.
Right.
I think they understand people who are different than them and welcome them with open arms. I think they're more open to other cultures and learning about other people's backgrounds and stuff like that. I just think with London in their family, it's made them so much better as people and just more understanding and helpful and just better all around people.
You got into a mother's group prior
to
the pregnancy and to learn some of this. What were some of the things that the women or parents were having difficulties with? Because you got joy, but the realistic point of the matter is you're in a support group, and some of those support groups, they I'm pretty sure there were struggles. What was three of the major struggles that people were dealing with?
It got really sad and depressing sometimes because, the first 2 years we had, I want to say about 5 children pass away in the group. Because, like I said, a lot of the kids with Down syndrome, they're born with heart issues. So a lot of them had to have open heart surgeries. And those children didn't make it. And I'm still friends with some of those ladies just on Facebook. They got out of the group. But that was rough. And seeing like all the Facebook memories pop up with those little girls and little boys, it's really sad. And so that was probably the worst part. Just, having to get together and pray when somebody goes into surgery, like, please God, save them. Let's get them through this. And then, a few of them didn't make it. So that was the absolute worst part of it. Absolutely.
Like, what was the age bracket of the passing of a lot of these children?
Like right around 1 year old.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what were some of the other things that they were dealing with? I know that was one of the worst, but what was at least?
Well, a lot of the kids, some of the other surgeries, we had one little boy, he had something called Hirschsprung's disease, which affects the bowels and the stomach. And I don't know a whole lot about that disease, and I can't speak a whole lot, but he's still having to have some surgeries. So we kind of follow his journey too. I know he's had a hard time. So, And then a lot of the other stuff is now that our kids are 7 years old and getting into school, a lot of it is getting their schools. And these people are all over the U.S. They're not just in my state. So I can only speak to like what Oklahoma school system is like, dealing with special kids and IEPs and all that. But a lot of people are having problems getting the special help that they need at the schools, whatever state they're in, and inclusion, because a lot of the schools don't want to include these kids. They want to put them in a classroom, send them over to the corner. You know, you might be able to eat lunch with us with the typical kids, but other than that, go to the other classroom and just sit all day. So a lot of people are dealing with stuff like that.
Wow. And it's funny because I've seen that in the school system, and really it didn't even register until you just said it. How are lawmakers, what are you guys doing to make to push this out? Like, are you guys contacting lawmakers in your city, you know, how, the school system, the superintendents? Like, what are you doing to really amplify this?
Well, because I have my background that I have, I feel like I can go into the schools and talk to her teachers and talk to the school psychologist and the principal there, and they know that I'm there for business and I know the law, and I can tell them, you are not following the law right here. And I have brought an advocate. They have special needs advocates that will come with you to the IEP meetings. So you can use that. And I know a lot of the ladies have hired lawyers to come into the schools. There was one lady in Oklahoma. She went to the state capitol and made a law, and it had to do with the inclusion in the schools and everything. So she's passed a bill with our Senate.
Wow.
So a lot of these ladies, because we have these kids, we're getting into political stuff that we would have never gotten into. Right. and you know, lobbying and doing all this stuff and writing letters. Yeah.
You've now taken your message to social media. And let me say it's been there, but now it's amplified, and you do it with your favorite baseball mom. Did I get it right? Did I get it right?
Yes. Your favorite baseball mom. Yeah.
How did that come about, and what's the purpose with that?
Yeah, originally it was to help my son, because my son he's a senior in high school right now, but he is a baseball player, and we were posting videos to kind of help him because he wanted to go to college and play, and eventually he wants to go to the MLB and pitch. And, you know, and with all my kids, we've helped, you know, whatever they want to do, we'll be behind you, but you got to put in the work. I can't do the work for you. But if you need lessons, we'll go get lessons. We'll go do this, you know, whatever. So he went, you know, he's had a private pitching coach. He's had a personal trainer, and we documented all of that. And we documented the games and put highlight videos out. And originally that's what that was for. And then it just kind of evolved to, you know, me doing daily stuff with the kids and doing stuff. And a lot of people love to see London, my little girl. They love to see her, and they think she's just the sweetest. So I do a lot of videos with her, and, you know, going to school and doing what she does. So it's just, my platform's just kind of gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. So I don't feel like I am in a niche anymore. It's kind of just all over the place. Mom content.
I like that name, mom content. So I think that is you did kind of create a little niche a little bit, because it's drawing attention. What kind of response, what kind of questions, serious questions have you been getting? Because they're following London. They see you marketing your son. And today, who wouldn't be doing that? I mean, everybody is, you know, to me, you don't even need a scout. If you put out a great video, somebody sees it, been like, oh my God. But you're in a special niche. You have a daughter that has Down syndrome, and my hat's off to you for educating people through your social media platform, your baseball mom. But what are some of the responses that you're getting from people? Are more people reaching out to you for advice with their child, and they see what you're doing for your son, what's some of the feedback you're getting?
Yeah, I have people from all over sending me messages or commenting. With London, I've met a lot of people who are pregnant with a baby with Down syndrome, and they're asking me just, what to expect, or they're following me and saying, hey, I saw your video, so this just looks real and like a real family, and I don't feel so scared anymore because I see what you guys do. And it's just because I think a lot of people put fear into people when they're carrying a baby with Down syndrome. Mm-hmm. And so the whole pregnancy is just fear. They're scared. They don't know what's going to happen. It's anxiety. It's all kinds of stuff. So if I can help somebody and put them at ease, that it's not going to be like a super hard journey, like it can be a regular day. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have commented about that. And then with the baseball stuff, I just have a lot of people like asking, what do we do? We're at, my kid's a freshman in high school and he wants to go play college and we don't even know where to start. And, and they see my videos and they're just like, are you doing YouTube? Are you doing Twitter? And so I've had a lot of people comment about both of them. And I've actually had some coaches reach out because of my videos on Nate. And so he's gotten a lot of attention just off my TikTok page, which is crazy to think.
So how is that affecting your photography? You were supposed to be a photographer. Yes.
I still am taking pictures.
Okay, because I don't hear you saying nothing about your photography business. You don't went straight viral now. And
I did take pictures of Nate and his baseball team. So all my banners are hanging up at the ball field that I did for him.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask a few more questions. Let's go back. You've had a beautiful journey, but the realistic standpoint is what needs to happen. It's a two-part question. Mm-hmm. How was the hospital as far as educating you and comforting you and guiding you through this? Because now people are asking you the same thing. You got mom saying, look, I'm carrying this child. I don't know what to expect. Mm-hmm. I don't know how hospitals do, but it seemed like to me that there should be a support staff on there to guide you through these things and so forth. What was that like for you? And then more importantly, the second question is, what needs to be done to make this not a fear-based situation moving forward?
Right. Number one, I think the first thing when you go to the high-risk doctor, because when they find out that you probably are carrying a child with Down syndrome, they're going to send you over to a high-risk doctor. And that's what I did. The first thing he asked me was, do you want to terminate? Wow. And I was just, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks because I was like, that's going to be the first thing we're going to talk about. And I looked at my husband and my husband looked at me and I could see his face getting red. And I was just like shocked. And I said, that's it. We don't need to be here anymore. We got up and left. So number one, I don't think that is the first thing that needs to be talked about because it's not a bad thing.
Right.
Down syndrome is not a bad thing. It can be a beautiful life. So you shouldn't throw that out there to scared people because you're scaring them even more. So I wish doctors would just take that off the table. And if somebody brings it up, let them bring it up.
Let it be the parent. Let it be the parent.
Right. Let's not push that the first thing. So that's number one. Number two would be in the hospital. I think they really tried with me. I think everybody was really good at the hospital. There was like a social worker person that had came in and was talking to me about it and had given me the books and everything. But a lot of it is outdated information. Okay. And so it's got to be updated stuff because when you hand somebody a book from the 1980s and the drawings that they had, it's scary
Yeah. Okay.
because it's like the worst case scenario is what they throw at you. And I mean, a lot of people can look at my girl and be like, oh, I didn't know. And I get that a lot. I didn't know she had that. Okay. That's great. To me, that's not a compliment or a diss. It's just kind of in between. You know, she looks the way she looks and I think she's cute, but, what they are throwing at you in those books is just old, outdated materials and just very worst case. So I think they need to update their stuff. And I wish that they would have somebody in there talking to people who have firsthand accounts or maybe has a kid with Down syndrome, because a lot of times they'll come in, they'll be like, my neighbor's sister's cousin has a sister with Down syndrome. And so they think they know, but you don't know until you actually have somebody in your house with it. So I wish that they would bring in more people who are more knowledgeable. But most cities will have a Down syndrome association that, and I think the hospitals need to tell people about it, because I didn't find out until I did like Google searching. But the hospital didn't tell me about it. But our town, Tulsa, has a Down syndrome association. Oklahoma City has a Down syndrome association. So you have them, you know, wherever you're at in your state that can provide support, and, you know, somebody can come talk to you. And like the first people that made me feel better about everything was a couple from the Down syndrome association. They came to our house like about 2 weeks after I had London to just sit down and talk to us. They had a little girl that was about 10 years old, and they were the first people that really made me feel everything's going to be okay.
What was your biggest fear before we wrap up? You just focused on something. They said you bring the child home. And I'm gonna ask a question. I know you can't speak for your husband, but this is a two-part question. You bring the child home. Now, life is coming to grips. That was probably the most impactful moment throughout your whole entire pregnancy, more or less, because these people came to your home.
Yeah.
How did they bring comfort to you and your husband? And then the other part of that question is, when did the most impactful moment of you and your husband coming together to say, I can do this, we can do this?
That probably happened when she was still in the NICU. I didn't have her at home. I was standing in the middle of the kitchen. I was crying. I probably cried for a month, just straight up crying, because I didn't know, you know, how to be a mom to a special needs child, or, you know, how to do this. Is this going to affect us differently? How's this going to work? And he just came over to me, hugged me, and he said, Amber, we've been through it. We've been through everything. We're best friends. God's got us. He would not put this in our laps if we could not deal with it. We're going to deal with it. Everything's going to be all good. And so that was like, okay, we're going to do it for her and do it big. And then for them to come into our house, that was, she had already been home. I guess it was about 2-3 weeks after she had come home. I put her in their arms. They wanted to hold her, and they just loved on her and told me everything was going to be okay. They said, get the negativity out of your brain right now and just reset. Just do a whole reset. Don't listen to anybody. Don't listen to the chatter. This is your child. Whatever happens, happens. You know, somebody had said, well, if your typical child had gotten into a car accident and they were laying in bed in a coma for the rest of their lives, what would you do? Right. You would take care of them and do everything you could. So this is your child. You're going to do whatever. And I was just like, okay, let's go. Beast mode.
On a lighter side, before we wrap up, how can the viewers reach out to you, support you, to ask questions about family? And this, more importantly, I'm not using that word anymore. We're not using special needs. How to be a parent with a child. How can they reach out to you?
I am on TikTok. I am your favorite baseball mom, and I have a lot of people inbox me and send me messages on there. And then I do have an email address. It's amberdgregg@yahoo.com. AMBERDGREGG. And I love to hear from people. So if you're on TikTok, say hi.
Okay, my once upon a time Oklahoma Sooner fan. I guess I see you at the Red River Rival.
Yeah. Yep. We'll be there.
In the meantime, Amber, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show.
Thank you. I
Ladies
appreciate
and
it.
gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.